Hello and welcome to this edition of the Time with Hime podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Cordes, joined by our superintendent on this wet Monday.
Little rain, cooled off. The word is Oklahoma weather. We never know, but the 100-degree days are gone.
I hope so. I'm excited, but we don't ever get a transition of seasons.
We like the fall. Where's those days where it's 80 at night and 70 in the morning? Those are the days we'd like to have more of.
But we're thankful for the rain that
we
did
needed
have.
The rain.
And it's not flooding right now, so we're good and
good,
happy.
Slow rain. Good for my yard.
That's it. But we have a lot of great things to talk about this week, so let's get started first with the election.
Yes, tomorrow is election day. It's a primary runoff. It's a low voter turnout day, so we're encouraging everybody to go vote. One of the things on the election, there's some local issues and local runoffs between candidates, but one of the big ones for us as educators, as the state superintendent of schools, we've shared different debates they've had. You can obviously get on Facebook and you can read in the day's paper. There's a lot of information about the candidates. It's probably obvious who we support, but again, you can get on there and see that, and we encourage everybody to go vote because that's kind of where we need everybody to vote because that's your voice.
That's it. And so tomorrow polls are open from 7 to 7, and they can go on our website and find out where their voting poll is. But yes, make sure you do that and hashtag #WeAreLPS, and we will share if you have your voting sticker.
Yeah, and encourage other people to go vote.
Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Hime, something really important that we need to start collecting if we haven't already from our families, child nutrition, and tell them why it's important.
Well, first of all, it's two-sided. For the last 2 years, everybody has gotten to eat free. So we here at Lawton, our students still get to eat breakfast free, but lunch now you have to have your paperwork to get either free or a reduced meal. So it's very important that all of our parents turn in that paperwork because there's multiple ways to fill it out, and we want students to eat free if they qualify, and we want to work with parents to get them qualified. One thing we do is make sure there's no differentiation. No one should know a student is free except for the people doing the billing in child nutrition. It should not be. There's no difference when you go through the line. So we encourage parents to fill it out. The other side of it is we get a lot of state aid for each one of those forms that qualify for free or reduced. We get an additional $1,000 or so per form in state aid to help us run our school and to provide some of the services and some of the resources we've been able to provide our students. So those forms will start coming out. We'll start encouraging our parents to fill them out. And my one thing I said, and our parents have had such great patience so far in this school year because the beginning of the year has some bumps and bruises in it. But if you get a second form or a third form, either fill it out again if you want to try to qualify or just let them know you've already filled it out and you don't qualify. A lot of times they're just sending it to you because maybe you now have a lunch bill and you haven't had a lunch bill for 3 years. And so they send a form home hoping you qualify so that you don't have to pay that lunch bill.
And the thing with our child nutrition forms in that regard is that it's not a one time a year. If something changes in their status,
anytime
they can
it changes,
reapply.
yes. If any time during the year you become unemployed or your income level changes, please fill out the form. That's one way that we can help families if they hit a bump in the road or a hard time.
Now, last week we had our first full week back in school,
yes.
Buses and transportation and car line pickup. What do you want to share an update?
I'm just telling you, once again, thank you to all of our parents and the patient. The first 2 days are always hectic, and we had a few issues that we corrected. Car lines are always difficult, but, our car lines got faster every day across the district, and hopefully there's a couple we're going to look at changing and still making some adjustments, but hopefully today they just keep getting better and better, and your hope is school's out at 3:35. By 3:40 they've got your student in your car, and at 3:45 that place is clear, and our teachers are able to do their end of the day work and be able to leave the building by 4:15 or 4, and so that's what we're getting there. So keep the patience. We appreciate the parents and their patience with transportation and our car lines. We got the new bus. What's it called?
Zonar My View.
Zonar My View. We're working that. I think it's about 90% that it's working. Every day we're getting that better and more effective, and that is so awesome as a parent because you can see where your student's bus is and did they scan on the bus. So basically, are they still on the bus with that app? So hopefully that gets to 100% because we want you as a parent to know when the bus is going to arrive, especially when it's 100% in the winter, because if it's, the wind's blowing and the chill factor is 5 degrees and your students go get on a bus, now you can pretty well track the bus and know, okay, the bus is going to be here in 3 minutes. Now I'm going to get them out there to wait for the bus, not out there waiting 30 minutes for the bus. So that's kind of what that's about.
And that's the reason why it's important that we have ID cards, to scan on and off, because sometimes, a student may just get off on a different stop. That's not normal for them, but that's one way we can.
And some of our staff members have been superstars working at all of our sites getting those ID cards out. So sometime this week, every student should have an ID card. I think we were close at the end of last week. So, and that's another thing. If your child doesn't have an ID card for some reason, please let us know, because they've just slipped through the cracks, and we want to make sure everybody gets one. But with 14,000 students, we could have one or two that get missed. So make sure if you're one of those, you let us know.
Now, last week, before we kicked off our weekend, we did push out that we have Comanche Language.
Oh,
now.
Isn't that awesome?
And then we have ASL, but share about what that looks like for our families.
And again, our families, one of the things we're doing with the LRC, if students want it, we're going to try to find a way to offer it. And like Comanche Language is one of those that'd be very difficult to offer at each site, because there's a limited number of students that are interested in taking that as a foreign language. So it really worked out well to put it here at the LRC. So now we have enough students taking that class that it's made as a class, and hopefully that expands in the coming years.
And you shared this at the board meeting, but one of the things that we're really excited about is our 3 high school student councils coming together.
Oh, yes,
what does
very
that look
good.
like?
One thing we talked about last year is some of the ways we could use LRC. If you got student councils or leadership groups, when do they meet as a district? Because we're excited about Eisenhower and MacArthur and Lawton High, and we got 3 different schools with 3 different personalities, and they have good rivalries and sporting events and academic events, and they're very competitive. But as far as the government goes, at some point they need to come together and have those discussions about what's good for LPS or what's good for all of Lawton Public Schools. So Chick-fil-A is sponsoring it, which is really nice. It's a leadership council, and this Wednesday they're going to meet here at the LRC, the leadership from all 3 of them, and I'm going to discuss with them and have a talk. But more for me, I want to hear what they have to say, because I'm not as young as I used to be. Sometimes I can be wound up like some people. I act like I'm younger than what I am, but the ideal is, what can we do to improve education for our students? Well, sometimes we look at as adults what we think is best. Well, we're not engaging them. We got to figure out how we got to meet them where they're at, what our students feel like they need, because we know if they need and want it, they learn it.
Absolutely. And we're going to have more of that coverage, because we'll be there with our staff and share that out in our next meetings podcast. So
it's really great, because we've got our Facebook pages, we've got Twitter, we are LPS, hashtag we are LPS, hashtag Lawton PS. We've got this podcast. We've got, anytime you got a question, you can email info or info@lawtonps.org. Our webpage is lawtonps.org. We've got all this communication we put out there. We work hard to communicate with you. And if you're not getting the information, let us know, because we know that communication with our parents, with our families, with our community, that's an integral part of Lawton Public Schools being successful.
And when we're talking about communication, let me remind our families that the robocalls will start tomorrow, and the way that they get those is with their phone number being correct. And if there's an attendance issue, we'll correct it immediately, but it will be the first day that we do tomorrow. So be mindful if you get that notice that you can just call the school and update. Because sometimes as a parent you forget. You also forget to call in that your kid's not going to be there. That
helps you call in if your child's homesick or whatever, so that lets us know where they're at. The other thing is, as a parent, if you get a call and you think your child's at school, remember it's the first day. We're still working on schedules. First day with the robocall. Don't panic, but definitely call and double check and make sure your child is where they're supposed to be, because that's part of the reason we do the robocall. Because if a parent thinks their student's at school and the student shows up absent, well, then we need to make sure we know where that student is and make sure, that we're tracking them down for safety and security reasons as well.
Mr. Hime, what other celebrations and things do we want to highlight before we end our podcast?
I did see where El Reno ladies won the the MacArthur ladies won the El Reno volleyball tournament. So big shout out to to our volleyball team from MacArthur High School. And obviously we'll start trying to share as much of the successes our athletes are having because it's that time of the year. And success sometimes is in participation, but I see the girls at Lawton High out there practicing every day when it was 110. It's exciting to watch them, but we know across the district we've got football starting. People have scrimmaged. We have games this weekend. We have scrimmages this weekend in football, middle school. So we are at that time where there's going to be something every day going on. So
and that just reminds, because we have academic team getting ready to go out there. We have our choir, our fine arts, the
band
art gallery,
starting
band.
to march. Yes, I've seen the band. I drove out a lot in the High parking lot about 3:00 one day, and the band was out there practicing. I'm like, man, it was 110 on my truck, and they're standing on that pavement. Hey,
they sound amazing.
And some people don't realize that the band does not always practice in the air conditioning.
Well, and they practice early hours too, so sometimes we get to come to work and hear those glorious sounds, so I love it.
So there's a lot of students at work. Sometimes we see the final results of the hard work a football team puts in, but there's a lot of other groups working hard out there and getting better and representing Lawton Public Schools. So a big shout out to everyone who's in some kind of extracurricular activity, and good luck as you compete as the year goes.
Mr. Hime, thank you so much for your time this week. Thank you guys for your time. Remember to follow our social medias, like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And if there's nothing else, Mr. Hime, we will bid them farewell and thank them.
Yes.
All right, you
thank
guys.
You for joining.
Until next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.